Greetings, my scattered brothers and sisters in the Lord. Hope you're having a good day and that you are finding this time in the Gospel of John meaningful to you and helpful to you in your walk with the Lord. Today we continue on with Jesus, and he is in Jerusalem. He has healed the man who was lame for 38 years, and you recall that he healed him on the Sabbath, that Jesus had told him to rise, take up his mat, and walk. And immediately he was cured, and he took up his mat, and he's walking around, and the Jewish leadership confronted him about breaking the Sabbath, carrying his mat. They asked him why he was doing that, and the man who is now healed said that Jesus told him to. Well, I mean, you remember that he didn't know at first who Jesus was, but Jesus found him a second time and told him, "You're well now, so stop sinning, or something worse could happen to you." And so once Jesus found him that second time and he knew who it was that healed him, he went and told the Jewish leadership that it was Jesus who told him to rise and take up his mat and carry it around on the Sabbath. The Jewish leadership was not too pleased about this because Jesus had told this man to break the Sabbath. And so they confronted Jesus on this. Kind of like, who are you to be telling people to carry their mat on the Sabbath? Well, Jesus responded that his Father was at work to this day, and so he was at work. Now, this really upset the Jewish leadership because not only was he telling somebody to break the Sabbath by carrying their mat, but he was actually claiming that God was his own personal Father and that he was equal to God. Well, they were a little bit right. I mean, Jesus was claiming that God is his personal Father, and he was also claiming that in some sense he was able to do the same things that the Father did, that God did, because of being God's Son, equal to God in a certain sense. Well, the leadership, they took this as just plain ridiculous blasphemy. And they already were beginning to look for ways at this point in order to get rid of Jesus, to kill him. But Jesus took this as a teaching opportunity. And he said that he doesn't do anything independent of the Father. When the Jews heard him claim that God was his Father, in some sense, they took that as Jesus being equal to God, Jesus being rival to God, kind of like, well, if God can work, I can work. But Jesus is basically saying that everything he does is because the Father shows it to him, and that he doesn't do anything independent of the Father, and that the Father shows him all things. And he goes on to tell them that just as the Father raises the dead, so the Father has empowered Jesus to give life to whomever he wishes. And the conversation goes on a little bit further, and basically Jesus says that whoever honors the Son honors the Father, and whoever dishonors the Son dishonors the Father. And of course, Jesus is the Son. And so however they're treating Jesus, if they dishonor him, they're dishonoring God. But if they honor Jesus, then they are honoring God. In the Gospel of John, the miracles are typically referred to as signs. And oftentimes, on the other side of a sign, right immediately following a sign, there is some type of a discourse, speech, conversation, to where the sign is reflected upon. And what that ends up doing is pointing us as to who Jesus is. And so the real question that's kind of being wrestled with here is, who is Jesus and where does he get his authority from? His authority to heal, his authority to tell somebody to carry their mat on the Sabbath. I mean, who is this guy? And the whole point of the discourse, the whole point of Jesus' kind of speech that follows, is that Jesus is the Son of God. And that as the Son, the Father has revealed all things to him and empowered him to give life. That's going to be the focus of the ensuing verses or the ensuing speech that Jesus gives, the power that he has to give life. For today, I just want us to focus on that one key thought, that Jesus is the Son, and that however we honor or dishonor him, so we honor or dishonor the Father. And in fact, Jesus says that the Father doesn't judge anyone, but that the Father has given all judgment into the hands of the Son. And so it becomes all the more critical. How do we treat Jesus? Do we honor or dishonor Jesus? And if we're honoring Jesus and listening to him and opening ourselves up to him, then we're honoring God, and we will receive life through the Son. But to dishonor Jesus, to reject him, to not listen to him, well, that's to dishonor and to reject God. And in doing so, we basically bring judgment upon ourselves. So, kind of a simple thought today, but pretty critical. Honor the Son, because in honoring the Son, we're honoring the Father. Wherever you're scattered, honor the Son. God bless.